It's not a relationship where like two people do things wrong and they're trying to, you know, make things better. Like there's no making it better when it comes to being in a narcissistic relationship, because it's not a true, genuine relationship. But there's love and there's trust and there's a foundation to build upon. It's really just a narcissist taking and abusing their victim. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Missy, and today I thought we'd talk about the worst advice to give a victim of a narcissist. People try to be helpful, but they are not fully educated or understand the difference between a healthy individual versus a narcissist and what it's like to be in a narcissist dynamic. So they may, you know, try to relate, or they may dismiss, or they may try to give some advice, and it's not very helpful advice. So there's that end. And then there's another aspect where I see this so often. When I go into narcissistic forums on like Facebook or Reddit or what have you, everyone projects their own individual experiences onto someone that's like looking for advice or help, and they give, you know, their input of what they think that person should do, when each experience with a narcissist is individual and it's not all the same, and their advice may be more harmful than helpful. So hopefully this video will help you feel validated if you've ever heard this advice, and you can send this to people that, you know, don't really understand narcissistic relationships, and they have tried to give you this advice so they could have a deeper understanding of why it's not helpful advice. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. So one of the first things I'd say is someone saying, just tell them how you feel. In a healthy dynamic, yeah, that makes sense. Tell the person how you feel so you can resolve it and come to some sort of solution. But when you're in a narcissistic dynamic, you can't tell the narcissist how you feel. One, because it won't go anywhere. It will just be like beating a dead horse. Another reason is they will use your feelings and what you say as a tool to manipulate you, they'll act like they're hearing you, and they'll act like they're changing, which will further confuse the victim into thinking, oh, you know, the narcissist is making a difference, but really they're just finding other ways to manipulate and control, and they just don't use that tactic that the victim had brought up. They'll use the information they got to gaslight, to turn it around, to then use it as ammo and project and say that the victim is doing it to the narcissist, and they can make the victim feel guilt and shame. So that's why it's not good to tell a narcissist victim, hey, just tell them how you feel. Now this one is a controversial one, but I see this often in Facebook groups or in forums and Reddit, whatever, but people will continually enforce, you need to leave. Now here's the thing. For people's mental health sake, yes, 100%, or some people's physical safety also, yes, 100%, the best scenario would be if the person was no longer around that narcissist. But not everyone has the ability to not be around the narcissist. Maybe they work around them, or maybe they are not as severe, and so they want to maintain some sort of low contact with them, you know, because that's better for their situation. Maybe it hurts their heart too much to, you know, completely cut them off. Some people are not in a financial situation to completely rid the narcissist. You know, everyone's situation is so unique and different. I would say definitely if someone is they're getting physically touched, or, you know, things are getting violent, or it's like escalating where it's very bad, yes, 100% try to really encourage that person to leave. But if this person doesn't feel like that's best for them, you can give the advice to say, hey, you know, it would be best to leave because things are not going to get better, what have you. But enforcing and continuing to bully that person into feeling they have to leave, that can give them great anxiety and more stress, when really they just need relief from their community. So, you know, letting them know, hey, it's best to leave because things aren't going to get better and X, Y, and Z, but here's some ways to cope in the meantime while you do have to deal with this person. Everyone has to learn their own life lessons and decide what's best for them, and sometimes leaving is not always the best option for them for many different reasons. So don't always try to enforce what was best for you onto other people, only if it's, like I mentioned, severe. And again, to reiterate, yes, the best mental health option would be for people to not be around the narcissist at all, but that's not always an option for everybody. The next one is you need to compromise with them. There's no compromising with the narcissist, point blank period. They only care about their agenda, manipulating, controlling. They only care about getting what they want. So there's no way possible to compromise with them in any sort of way. The relationship is the victim constantly trying to change and better the relationship, or trying to appease the narcissist so things will be better, and the narcissist just continuing to take or complain or make it appear that the victim is really bad, and completely the narcissist completely alters reality and makes it appear that the victim is crazy. So there's no compromising, there's no healthy dynamic. So telling them to compromise doesn't go anywhere. The next one is ask them what you do wrong and fix it. Like I was mentioning before, the narcissist only cares about themselves and taking, and they only care about fulfilling their own agenda and filling their own ego. They want their supply. So there's actually it's not a relationship where like two people do things wrong and they're trying to, you know, make things better. Like there's no making it better when it comes to being in a narcissistic relationship, because it's not a true, genuine relationship, but there's love and there's trust and there's a foundation to build upon. It's really just a narcissist taking and abusing their victim, and that is what the whole relationship is based on. Giving them love, taking it away. Praising them and taking it away. Destroying them and then acting like they're sorry. It's this constant yo-yoing back and forth. So there's nothing really that the victim is doing wrong in order for them to change, because whatever the victim does, it will never be good enough. Not because there's something wrong with the victim, but because the narcissist has a hole inside of them that will never be fulfilled. And there's nothing anyone can do that would make them feel better or make them want to move forward, because they don't want to move forward in the relationship. They don't want to solve any problems. They want to create problems so that way they feel like a victim and things are happening to them, and they can take more and control more and manipulate the narrative more. And not only that, but this enforces the narcissist's bad behavior and further blames the victim and thinking that something's wrong with them and they have to fix and maintain the narcissist's ego. A lot of the advice is just making the victim blame themselves and feel like they need to take accountability to do something about their partner, when in reality there's nothing they could do to change the situation and it is not their responsibility. The next one is stay for the kids, or because you're in a marriage and you can't just leave a marriage, or stay for the money or whatever, you know, stay because X, Y, and Z. Sacrificing your mental health for anything is never healthy, even if it's for children. And the reason why is because it teaches your children unhealthy dynamics, and it also can hurt them further by staying with a narcissistic partner, because they're getting the brunt of the abuse constantly. Whereas if it's more so 50-50, they will only be there part-time. And yes, I know overall it's just terrible for children to have the type of dynamic, but it's better for them to have a healthy parent that is in a good mental state where they can help guide them through the terrible stuff they're gonna have to experience, versus having a parent that's in the mess and they can't even mentally be okay and be there as the best parent they can be for their child. And it teaches them really detrimental, unhealthy behavioral patterns, staying in that relationship. It's basically the action shows I am not worth having a good dynamic, or I'm not worth love, or, you know, peace. And this is not me shaming anyone. Like, if that is your decision to stay with your partner for the children, then you feel that is best, then that is what is best. Maybe you feel like you need to, it's better for you to be there 24/7 to see what's going on, and that's okay. Like, there's no shame in it. It's just people that trying to enforce their opinion of like, you should stay because, is where it's the unhealthy. It's, you need to be the one that makes that decision. So there's that. And then, you know, if they say stay because you chose to get married, like they broke their marital bonds when they decided to mistreat you. So don't let like religion or anyone make you feel shame or guilt and like you have to stay in a marriage because, you know, it's a sacred thing. Treating your partner also is a sacred thing as well. So don't let anyone make you feel like you have to stay in anything that harms you. So victims that, and that happens often, is victims feel like they have to stay in this marriage because other people in their community may shame them, like family members or in religions or what have you. They shame them to make them feel like they have to stay in this marriage. It's really unhealthy. The next one, give them time, they'll change. Someone who says that does not understand narcissists at all, because with narcissists, they don't change. And what happens when someone tells a victim this, they think, oh, you know, like, you know, everybody can change, so it's possible for them to change, and maybe I just need to wait it out, or I need to do things differently so that way they will get better, things can get better. But that's not the case for everybody. Time will not change them. Time can't change their brains and the way they were formed in childhood. They'll never truly change, and that's something that the victim has to accept and understand, because otherwise they're going to be continuously stuck in this cycle of abuse. And someone that tells the victim that keeps them further stuck in this abuse by making them feel like they'll change when they don't really know that. Narcissists are incapable of change because they cannot self-reflect, and as long as you can't self-reflect and you can't take accountability and you can't see where you're in the wrong, then you cannot move forward or change. Their goal is not to be a better person. Their goal is to hide behind a mask and to fill their ego, to deal with that deep-rooted shame that they are suppressing and they are not bringing to the surface. The next one, be grateful, it could be worse. This one is so frustrating, because you hear that often when anyone complains. This isn't just a narcissistic, you know, when someone has a narcissistic spouse, but this is for anyone that, you know, they'll complain. Other people will be like, oh, you know, it could be worse. That is so dismissive and belittling of that person's experience, because that bad experience is a big deal to them. It is a part of their world. That's all they know, and every single person is valid in expressing their frustrations, and people go through their own crappy stuff, and not everyone's gonna have the same experiences. So even if something could be worse, it doesn't matter. That's not a reason to be grateful. You can be grateful without imagining it could be worse, but that's a whole other topic. That's nothing to do with this situation. But telling someone to be grateful because it could be worse is dismissing what they're actually experiencing and what they're actually going through, and they don't get the proper help because they're dismissing and belittling their own experience and trying to think of the positive side. They're using toxic positivity to deal with their situation, and then they just continue to further lose themselves and deal with the gaslighting and get further gaslit. So no, you don't need to be grateful because it could be worse. It's more so identify what's actually going on and see what you need to do about your situation. The only way to truly figure things out is by acknowledging them, not by dismissing and suppressing and thinking like, oh, it could be worse. The next one, everyone has flaws, deal with it. Although this is true, everyone does have flaws, this is not the common experience when you're in a narcissistic relationship. It's not that they have a flaw, they're abusing their partner. So the person who's giving the advice, they'll compare it to their situation. They're like, oh yeah, I deal with things like that, or oh yeah, like it's just, you know, wives or husbands, they got their flaws and you just gotta learn how to accept them. But they don't understand the magnitude of how severe it actually is, because there's people that have covert narcissist spouses, so things don't sound as bad as they actually are because it's so covert and it's so behind the scenes and it's so hidden of what's actually going on, that you can't 100% express how bad it actually is. So then people are like, oh, I can relate, but they actually can't truly relate. It's that they don't, the person who's dealing with the covert narcissist abuse, they can't express how bad it actually is because they may not be fully aware of what's going on, since it's so manipulative. And it's hard to see things when you're in the situation. You don't truly see things until you're out of the situation and you get some type of help and you get educated. So in any relationship you have, even if it's not just romantic, there will be flaws you'll have to deal with other people, but it shouldn't be dealing with abuse or manipulation or control. Those are not flaws, those are injustices. So that advice is not very helpful to someone that's dealing with a narcissistic partner. They shouldn't accept that person, because that further causes them to stay and deal with that abuse, because they think, oh, I just have to accept this person for the way they are and what they come with. No, you don't have to accept abuse, and you should not accept abuse. There comes a time where there is boundaries and they can be crossed, and even if you're in a relationship, you should 100% have boundaries, and you are allowed to not tolerate things even if you love someone. The next one, it's your fault, you provoked them. Here's the thing, in all dynamics and all relationships, it's a two-way street. People say mean things, they do mean things. Like, it's, you know, when there's a fight, you're not fighting with nobody. Like, both people are doing things to cause the fight to, you know, happen. Everyone does wrong things. But with a narcissist, it's completely different, where even if you are seen as provoking them, what provokes them is so random or out of the ordinary that you could just be singing a song and they will attack you, and they will attack you for things that are not normal, and other times they'll be okay with it. And so it's so back and forth that it's not truly that you're provoking them, it's that anything could set them off or provoke them or make them angry. It's unpredictable. So it's not a matter of you provoke them, it's a matter of anything could provoke them. You just happen to be the target at the time. They will find anything, especially when you're the target, anything to trigger them, to set them off, to make you the problem, because they cannot deal with the fact that they have so many problems in them. They need you to be a problem for them to feel okay and comforted. And the last one, try to help them change. Like I said earlier, they cannot change, and it's not your responsibility to try to help anyone change. In healthy relationships, it is normal to grow together. It's normal to be like, hey, this really bothers me, let's work on it together. You know, that is completely normal. Your goal shouldn't be to change someone. You should always go into a relationship accepting that that person's going to be the way they are forever, and you be okay with it. And if they change, it's an added bonus, but it should never be your goal to ever try to change anybody. If they are not up to your satisfaction, it's always the option to leave. And with the narcissist, it's not that they're not up to your satisfaction, it's that they're genuinely mistreating you, and you should never put up or tolerate with mistreatment. And there's nothing you can do to change them or make them treat you better, because you are not the problem, they are the problem. And so whatever you do will do nothing, because you cannot fix this problem. It's not a you problem. So although the person who's giving this advice means well of like trying to help you to grow in your relationship, it's not possible to grow with a narcissist. So here are some advices that people may give to people who are in narcissistic relationships that don't truly understand the dynamic of being in a narcissistic relationship, and how unhelpful it could be to the victim that's in this relationship. It can cause them to stay further in the abuse. It can cause them to not learn how to really deal with the abuse if they have to, you know, stay in this dynamic. It can further push them into the abuse and further push them to neglect themselves and lose themselves. So I hope this helps. What do you guys think? Leave it on the comments below. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone that you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. Why do I have syrup in my arm? What is happening? The next is, oh, I never took a thumbnail. Oh shoot, I gotta take a thumbnail.